Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Deep True Crime. I'm Manny Rodriguez. In today's episode, I want to cover Oregon man who there was a manhunt for this guy after torturing of a woman. He killed two people while on the run. And so we're going to be diving into what we know and what has come about that standoff between him and the cops. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. This Oregon man, where authorities were going after him in a manhunt to catch him on a week-long search, authorities are now saying after torturing the woman last week, he is now accused of killing two men during this week-long manhunt that ended when he fatally shot himself in a standoff with police. That is what officials are saying. The man, Benjamin Obadiah Foster, 36 years old, who also was a bartender in Grants Pass, Oregon, he was accused last week of kidnapping a woman and severely beating her in her own home, where she was found bound and unconscious on January 24th of this year. They said they also believe that Mr. Foster was responsible for the beating deaths of Richard L. Barron, 73 years old, rest in peace, Richard Barron, and Donald O. Griffith, 64 years old, rest in peace, Donald Griffith. They were both found dead early this week at their home in Sunny Valley. This is about 20 miles north of Grants Pass, Oregon. The police said they were unaware of any connection between these two men and Mr. Foster. The woman who, of course, the name and age were not released, but who police say had previously been in a domestic relationship with Mr. Foster, she remains hospitalized in critical condition as of today, this day on Thursday of the video, February 2nd. But she is in stable conditions. That is what authorities are sharing. After a week that has frustrated law enforcement officials and literally stirred up anxiety in the rural areas, the authorities learned through a tip of a taxi driver who dropped this man off, Mr. Foster, and also video footage on Tuesday of this week that Mr. Foster was back at the home where he had abused the woman. Mr. Foster, he did not want to talk to the police at all when they tried to confront him. And instead, he burrowed himself underneath the home. That is what Chief Warren Hensman of the Grants Pass Police Department shared at the news conference. And so this is where the area where the two men were found along the along the Sunny Valley Loop. Also arrested at the time was someone along with him who basically hid him. We'll dive into her in a second as well. But Mr. Hensman, the chief, Warren Hensman, he said Foster took his own life with what appears to be a single gunshot wound to the head with a .45 caliber weapon. Mr. Foster, it is said that he was still breathing when officers were able to get to him, but then when he got to the hospital, that is where he was pronounced dead. And so he was taken to a medical facility where he was pronounced dead almost immediately upon arrival. That's what is shared at the press conference. And at the news conference, the authorities described how they had struggled during the manhunt. On January 26th, 2 days after the beaten woman was found, the police got a tip that Mr. Foster was at a home in Sunny Valley. But Chief Hensman said he had slipped out and evaded capture. Then, while conducting door-to-door welfare checks in the region earlier this week, the authorities found the bodies of Mr. Griffith and Mr. Barron. Their deaths were ruled homicides. That is what the authorities had shared with us, adding that they believe the men had died from blunt force trauma. Basically the same way that this man was, what he was doing to the woman before someone came checking on her and wondering why I can't get a hold of her, and that stopped the beating, and then the man escaped and leaving the lady barely alive. She is in critical condition, but she is expecting to make a full recovery. So while they're conducting this door-to-door welfare check in the region early this week, that's when they found the bodies of Mr. Griffith and Mr. Barron. And right away, their deaths were ruled homicide due to blunt force trauma. And police say that this happened sometime between Monday afternoon into Tuesday morning. And in their home, there were some items that were believed to have been stolen, including a dog. So very interesting that he would also be seen walking a dog, as I shared in one image, and I'll show it again. And Dave Daniel, the Josephine County Sheriff, he said at a news conference, we have no outstanding suspects in relation to the deaths of Mr. Barron and Mr. Griffith. That's what he shared at the news conference. We believe that those are related to Benjamin Foster at this time. And so that's where they're sharing that it looks like the deaths of Mr. Barron and Mr. Griffith are definitely at the hands of Benjamin Foster, who the manhunt was on after violently attacking a woman. And so on Tuesday of this week, Mr. Foster traveled back to the home where he had abused a woman in Grants Pass. That's what authorities had said, and where he ultimately ended up in the standoff underneath the home of that home on Grants Pass. The case involving Mr. Foster had been described by officials in Grants Pass as one of the most disturbing they have ever seen in the small city. And in this small city, there's only about 39,000 people in Southern Oregon, where homes are surrounded by forests. So that literally there's trees everywhere around here. And this is where you can see Mr. Foster walking a little dog, which is, I believe, I'm just throwing this out there, where the dog was missing from one of the homes. Looks like this may very well be. And so he was surrounded by a lot of things around here. And it drew particular concern after officials said Mr. Foster might have been using dating apps, either to target more victims or to force someone to help him elude capture. And the authorities, they later clarified that, saying they did not believe he had used the apps to actively recruit or manipulate anyone. And so, but they do believe that he was using it for some reason. But the people who own these different dating apps, there's one company that owns like 4 of them. They all said, we don't show any accounts tied to him, but they were going to continue to investigate. And so investigators, they had used police dogs to search for Mr. Foster in the woods last week. And Lieutenant Jeff Hattersley of the Grants Pass Police Department, he said in an interview that officers had exhaustively looked into every tip or lead about his whereabouts. On January 26th, the authorities found Mr. Foster's car in Wolf Creek, which is a neighboring unincorporated community in Josephine County. That evening, the police also arrested Tina Marie Jones, who investigators believe she hid Mr. Foster and helped him evade officers. And so that's why she was charged with 2 counts of hindering prosecution. And you can see when Grants Pass Police Department put an update just yesterday on February 1st. Grants Pass Police Chief Warren Hensman will hold a joint press conference because they were about to give an update on the resolution to the Benjamin Foster case and provide updated details that were related to this investigation, which, as you know, that's what I'm sharing with you for the most part, right? What we have found out. This is still an ongoing investigation. But this here is the chief who was part of that conference yesterday when I was just talking about Chief Hensman. This is Mr. Chief Hensman. Okay, so I want to make sure I clear things up if there's anything there, right? And so on Tuesday of this week, Mr. Foster, that's what I say. He went back to the woman's home that he abused in Grants Pass. And this is where it's like, these type of things do not happen in this small little town on a regular basis. So that's why people were up in arms and the community they were at unease. And who would have thought this man would leave, go somewhere else, and then come back to this home? But this is not the first time he has done something like this. But we'll dive into that as well. And so Tina Marie was also arrested, but we'll dive into her in a second here. But you can see where the victim's house is and then where the search warrant of Tina Marie Jones' home was, where he is said to have also been hiding. And so here is the victim who he tortured and kidnapped. And that's in Grants Pass. And then he went up to Oregon, a little up north, and that's when they were served the search warrant to look through Tina Marie's home and in the surrounding areas. And so when they're going door to door, that's when they found the two men. But in Grants Pass, a friend of the victim who had been concerned about not hearing from her in hours walked to her home on January 24th and is said to have interrupted the torture that she was going through at the hands of Mr. Foster that he had been inflicting on her. That's what Lieutenant Hattersley shared in the interview. Mr. Foster, he had faced similar criminal charges before in Las Vegas, where he was attending a university at that time. You see, in 2019, in Clark County, Nevada, he reached a deal with the prosecutors. Mr. Foster and the prosecutors reached a deal at the time, allowing him to plead guilty to one felony count of battery and one misdemeanor count of battery, constituting domestic violence. But see, here's the thing, is that from that case, he was released way too early. See, he was released from custody just previous October from when this occurred. And so while he was gone, police had offered a $2,500 reward to any links to him. And so here he was at the center of an intense police search after this violent kidnapping, but we find out that he was released from custody in October of 2021 by Nevada officials on the same day that he arrived at the prison. So he had been facing decades behind bars in Nevada after he was charged in 2019 with 5 felonies, including assault and battery. But a deal with Clark County prosecutors allowed him to instead plead guilty to felony misdemeanor, and a judge sentenced him in September of 2021 to serve between 1 and 2.5 years in a state prison. You see, a spokesperson for the Nevada prison system told the Associated Press, this is William Cuenca, he shared in an email that Foster arrived on October 18, 2021 at a prison intake facility, but was released the same day because the judge had factored in of Foster's punishment the 729 days that he had already spent in jail awaiting trial. That means Foster had served his minimum sentence behind bars, but was a half year from serving the maximum time given by the judge. And then here he was on the run after he allegedly bound and severely beat a victim, right? Until she was unconscious inside her home on Shane Way, Grants Pass, Oregon. And so this young lady, she was literally hurt. Jessie Siemens, she was under attack. She was hospitalized in critical condition, and she had not regained consciousness since then, for the most part. That was a few days ago. As of today, I believe she has gained consciousness, but she was still suffering, and she was still in the hospital. This case has rattled the Grants Pass, this little town in southwest Oregon next to Interstate 5, because it's extremely troubling that Foster wound up being sought for attempted murder in Oregon instead of still being behind bars in Nevada. Foster, he narrowly eluded police, as I shared on Thursday, after this happened. And it may have changed his appearance by then, but we don't know because he killed himself, so they may not even be showing any updated photos of him. And so, because they originally released a photo of him with shoulder-length hair, but he had cut it since then, right? And that's where it was like, okay, why was he out? And so they did offer a reward of $2,500 for any information. And now, of course, there would be leads coming in right away. So they had like 50 or more tips, mostly by phone, but nothing was solid until the taxi driver had dropped him off. And so, but should he have been out? We don't know, because he did not have to serve so much time. And so he practically did this same thing to a female in 2019, and he was already back on the streets. So what would have happened here? That's a question that I have. What would have happened here? Was he only going to get another 2 years only? Or maybe repeat offender was going to get a lot longer because she lived. So what would they have done to him in this case? I mean, I get it. People are doing bad things all the time, and you got to have some room in these jails for incoming suspects. I get all of that. But here this guy is. I mean, this was not a good guy. He was doing it again to a female that he is alleged to have been in a relationship with. But then, while on the run to do this to two men, rest in peace to those two men, and then to cowardly take your own life when you're confronted, burrowed underneath a residence. This guy was extremely dangerous. That's pretty obvious. But why would Tina Marie even want to help him in this? We don't really know Tina Marie. When he was on the run, this was the car that he was said to be in, but later he must have abandoned that car because then he was in a taxi. Okay, here is Tina Marie Jones, as I showed you a picture earlier anyway, and she was arrested in that area. This is his older mugshot when he was arrested in 2019 for that heinous crime there. And my friends, at the end of the day, this stuff we wish didn't happen. As human beings, we all have different things going through us. I don't understand why someone's capable of doing that. I can understand where someone may get angrier than usual, but to that extent, like help me understand why is there a snapping point to that extreme? Because I'm guessing this was an angry guy. And I understand a lot of things happen when we're younger and it kind of sticks with us. Some people don't overcome some of those bad past history stuff. But I just want to figure, I don't even, it's not my job to figure it out. God understands. He created sin when Adam and Eve did what they did, right? And so sin has been upon this world, which also is the crime aspect of it. It's going to be here. It's going to be here. The best I can do is be a voice for the victims. That's my whole purpose, is to be a voice for the victims, to be a voice for you, to help you know this is what could go wrong in this crazy world we live in. We have to be careful for where we're at, be aware, be alert. Just know bad things do happen to good people. We have to be careful, and it doesn't even matter. Truth is, we can be as careful as possible and something still go wrong. But try to be alert. Try to be alert. My friends, I'm Manny Rodriguez. At the end of the day, if this is the type of content you like to follow, please hit that subscribe button. Click on that like if you got some value out of this story. And hit that notification bell. That way you get notified whenever I upload content or I go live. At the end of the day, as I said, it's not about me. It's about being a voice for the victims. Because truth is, we like to know why this happened, what led to the arrest, what led to the capture. At least that is something that has fascinated me. What helps lead the cops to the bad guys? That's one of the things I've always appreciated about true crime. How did the police get the bad guy? And for me, that's problem solving. That's solving. That's detective. That's why I like to do this. To also play that online detective. Do my research. Do some learning how these things go. This is not about me. This is about being a voice. Have a great day, my friends, and I hope that you stay safe, stay careful. Talk to you later. Peace.